used my mother-in-law's savings for this trip. It's going to be part of John's inheritance anyway, so it's fine, right?
Right after my mother passed away, my brother and his wife rushed over to get her bank book before I could submit her death certificate to the city hall, so they could withdraw her savings.
You used Mom's money, didn't you?
Suppressing my anger, I asked, and Karen casually replied,
Yes. I've already spent $10,000 on the trip, haha.
The audacity of my brother and his wife conspiring to use Mom's money without permission made me furious for a moment. But then I remembered something. Right? They don't know. I couldn't help but start to laugh.
Good for you.
Karen looked puzzled as I suddenly burst into laughter.
What's gotten into you? Did the shock of us spending the money drive you crazy?
Of course, I hadn't gone crazy. I just couldn't help laughing, imagining the surprised faces of my brother and his wife when they find out the truth and their grim fate. My ignorant brother and his wife won't be able to stay carefree for much longer. I'm Sarah. Just an ordinary office worker who grew up with kind parents. My parents were always kind-hearted, always thinking about what they could do for others in their daily lives. Being too kind sometimes meant being deceived or burdened with other people's problems, but I respected my parents for it. However, my brother John had a completely different personality from me and our parents, always calculating what was in his best interest. To my brother, our parents, who always went out of their way for others, seemed like an enigma. As my brother grew older, his rebellion against our parents intensified, and by the time he was in high school, he demanded more allowance, saying, "If you have the means to do things for others, you should give me more money." Despite accepting my brother's personality, my parents never changed their own beliefs. My parents' unwavering character only frustrated my brother further. His negative feelings towards our parents didn't subside in college. They only grew stronger. Taking advantage of our parents paying all his college tuition, he spent his time as he pleased, eventually failing a year and causing her parents endless trouble.
You're my parents, so it's only natural you provide for your son, right? Or are you saying you can be kind to others but not to your own family?
Saying so, my brother continued with his selfish demands. I've even heard him bragging to his friends that our parents were easy to manipulate. After graduating college, my brother moved out to live on his own. Despite moving out on his own, he complained that his starting salary wasn't enough for a decent living, and he would come home every month to collect living expenses before returning to his place. My parents, worried about him, continued to give him money as he demanded. When I started working, I decided to support my parents financially, taking over for my brother.
You worked hard for that money, so you can use it however you like.
My parents said that, but wanting to help them even a little, I continued to give them money from my salary as a substitute for living expenses at home. After years of this kind of lifestyle, my brother, who only showed up when he needed money, invited me and our parents to a restaurant out of the blue, because he had something to discuss. When we arrived at the restaurant, a beautiful woman was sitting next to my brother.
Dad, Mom, Sarah, I want to introduce someone to you guys. This is Karen.
The woman introduced as Karen bowed her head slightly.
I've decided to marry Karen. I think we'll be busy with the wedding and preparing for our new life, but please support us.
I thought please support us meant please be kind to Karen. But it seems my brother had a completely different idea in mind. My brother billed our parents for all the wedding expenses and the cost of the new house. Knowing her parents couldn't say no when it came to helping others, my brother skillfully persuaded them to pay for the wedding and new house and continued to make them pay for various things afterward. Karen, now married, seemed to have fully taken advantage of this, increasingly living a lavish lifestyle. However, that lifestyle didn't last long. My father fell ill and had to be hospitalized. Even though he had insurance, hospital life was costly. To ensure our retired parents wouldn't struggle with their future living expenses, I suggested to my brother that we should both contribute to the hospital bills.
I've been living at home and have received a lot of help from Dad and Mom, and you, John, have received a lot of financial support from them too, right? This is the time to give back and help out.
But John wouldn't agree to it.
Ha! Why should I? Isn't Dad's hospitalization due to his own poor health management? He's always been about others, neglecting himself. That's his own responsibility.
After saying that, John stopped coming by the family home, perhaps thinking it was futile to ask for money while Dad was hospitalized. Neither John nor Karen ever came to visit. Mom and I took care of Dad as best as we could, but he eventually passed away. Even after being informed of Dad's death, John and his wife didn't help with the funeral preparations. They just briefly showed up at the funeral and left without properly greeting the relatives. They were looked down upon by the relatives, but they probably didn't care at all. Mom held up bravely as the chief mourner during the funeral, but the shock of losing Dad seemed devastating, and she gradually lost her spirits after the funeral.
John, Mom has been feeling down lately. She wants to see you, so could you please come home and visit once in a while?
When I asked John, he thought for a moment before responding.
By the way, what happened to Dad's inheritance?
Mom inherited everything. It seems they had decided that together before Dad passed away.
I see. So, Mom's the one with the money now, huh?
Feeling uneasy, I immediately set John straight.
Like I said before, Mom is emotionally fragile right now. Don't come asking for money, okay? I want you to come and cheer her up.
What? If I'm not getting any money, there's no point in me going, right? Then forget it.
After I insisted that no money would be given, my brother ended up never showing his face at home. Then, 6 months after Dad's death, Mom passed away as if following him. Even knowing how dispirited Mom had become, my brother had shown no concern for her. However, upon hearing of her death, he hurried back home. I thought he would fulfill his duty as the eldest son and act as the chief mourner. But as the funeral began, both my brother and his wife had disappeared. Even when I called my brother, it went straight to voicemail. With no other choice, I took over as the chief mourner in my brother's place and managed to get through the funeral. It was a few days later when I finally got in touch with my brother.
Sarah, it's Karen.
It was Karen who answered my brother's phone.
John is in the middle of boarding procedures right now and can't take the phone.
Boarding procedures? Karen, where are you right now?
We're at the airport. We're leaving the country in a few hours. Haha.
Leaving the country? Are you going abroad?
Yes, a trip abroad.
I was shocked that my brother and his wife were going on an international trip so soon after our mother's death, but I was even more astonished by what Karen said next.
I'm grateful to your mother. Haha. Thanks to her, we could afford such a lavish trip abroad.
What do you mean?
You see, we funded this trip from your mother's savings. It's going to be part of John's inheritance anyway, so it's fine, right?
From Mom's savings? How did you withdraw it?
We borrowed the passbook when we went to the house. You can withdraw after the death certificate is submitted, right? So we hurried.
They rushed over right after Mom passed away to get the passbook before I could submit the death certificate so they could withdraw the savings.
You used Mom's money, didn't you?
Suppressing my anger, I asked, and Karen casually replied,
Yes. We've already spent $10,000 on the trip. Haha. It's great that it all worked out just as John planned.
The audacity of my brother and his wife conspiring to use Mom's money without permission made me furious for a moment. But then I remembered something, right? They don't know. I couldn't help but start to laugh.
Good for you.
Karen looked puzzled as I suddenly burst into laughter.
What's gotten into you? Did the shock of us spending the money drive you crazy?
John is the eldest son, so it's only natural he gets a larger share of the inheritance, right? I answered with a laugh.
Yes, that's right. I've already decided to renounce my inheritance, so it's fine if my brother inherits everything. That was your plan all along, wasn't it?
When I said that, Karen responded happily.
Oh, you're quite understanding, aren't you?
Oh, then please make sure all of Mom's mail is forwarded to your house, Karen.
That's an easy request. I'll let John know.
Karen hung up the phone cheerfully. The next time I heard from my brother was after he and his wife returned from their trip.
Sarah, I heard from Karen. You've renounced the inheritance, huh?
Yes. More importantly, did you take care of forwarding Mom's mail?
Yeah, I took care of it as soon as we got back.
Good, that's a relief.
You haven't changed your mind, have you? Don't come back later saying you wish you had inherited after all.
Of course not. I still believe my decision was the right one.
Is that so? Well, it's only right that I, the eldest son, inherit everything, huh?
After saying that, my brother ended the call in a good mood. However, a few weeks later, my brother called again. This time, he sounded panicked.
There's a collection notice in one of the letters addressed to Mom. What's this about exclamation question mark?
Oh, from the bank, right?
My parents, wanting to help those in need, would take on anything they were asked to do. This was the same even when it came to financial matters. If someone asked to borrow money, they would take out loans to lend to others. And if asked to be a guarantor, they would happily agree. As a result, the debt kept increasing. The amount was far greater than the savings, making it clear that inheriting would result in a deficit. Did you know about this? My brother raised his voice.
This is debt, right? You knew Mom had debts, didn't you? Exclamation question mark. Why didn't you tell me? Double exclamation mark.
There was no point in telling you.
Ha! Of course it matters. You knew about the debt, that's why you renounced the inheritance, right? Exclamation question mark. I would have renounced it too if I had known.
That's impossible.
Why is it impossible?
You withdrew money from Mom's bank account and went on a trip, didn't you?
So what? What does that have to do with renouncing the inheritance?
It's totally related. What you did is considered simple acceptance of the inheritance.
Simple? What's that? Explain it so I can understand.
I explained to my brother that withdrawing money from a deceased family member's bank account before the inheritance and using it for oneself is considered simple acceptance of the inheritance, which means you've agreed to inherit.
I've never heard of such a thing.
I bet you haven't. It's not common for someone to so shamelessly use a deceased family member's savings for their own selfish desires, so it doesn't come up often, does it?
You just want the inheritance and are making stuff up, right? I have a friend who's a lawyer. If you lie, I'll find out right away.
After saying that, my brother hung up and seemed to have relayed what he heard from me to his friend. Then he called again, but the bluster from before was gone, and he sounded completely deflated.
Sarah, it turns out you were right. It seems I can no longer renounce the inheritance.
Apparently, the lawyer gave him the exact same answer I did. My brother finally realized that he had inherited a negative legacy. He had always pestered our parents for money at every turn, never imagining that behind the scenes, they were accumulating debt. In a way, he had been one of the causes for the increasing debt, so it wouldn't be wrong to say it was his own doing. Still, my brother seemed desperate to find a way to avoid paying the debt. Knowing my brother and Karen, they probably spent what they earned and hardly saved anything. It was clear that the couple didn't have the means to repay the debt. My brother approached me with a coaxing tone.
Hey Sarah, now that both Dad and Mom are gone, it's just us siblings, right? Don't you think it's time we join forces?
Join forces? What do you mean?
I think we siblings should work together to pay off our parents' debts. It's time to honor our parents. So let's forget about the inheritance and help me pay off half the debt.
I sighed heavily at my brother's self-centered proposal, which came too late.
What are you saying? When Dad was hospitalized, I said we should work together as siblings to help him and Mom, but you were the one who pushed them away, weren't you?
At that time, I was busy.
No matter how busy you were, you never visited Dad and didn't support Mom when she was feeling down afterward. I don't want to hear the word filial piety from someone like that ever again.
I left my brother speechless with those words.
Have you ever done anything for someone else? I know you've always mocked our kind-hearted parents. But no one wants to help someone who can't move for others, even if it's family.
But if you don't help, Karen and I can't possibly pay back such a debt. Are you going to abandon your own brother? We're family, right? Exclamation question mark.
You were the one who abandoned Dad when he was hospitalized, saying it was his own fault for not managing his health. Using Mom's savings without permission this time is your own responsibility.
I regret that too. I changed my ways now.
Really? It still seems to me that you're just desperate to reduce your own debt. And no matter how much you regret it, the people you should be apologizing to are no longer here. It's too late.
I gave up on my brother and hung up the phone. I had no intention of helping my brother, who had always ridiculed and troubled our parents. Afterwards, burdened with debt and unable to live as freely as before, my brother and his wife's marriage seemed to turn sour. Still, living separately would cost money. Without even the money to move, my brother and Karen had no choice but to continue their marriage, bickering all the time. At first, they tried to save and pay off the debt little by little from their salaries, but that didn't last long. Neither my brother nor Karen could forget their luxurious lifestyle and kept spending behind each other's backs, so the debt never decreased. And as they blamed each other for the debt not decreasing, their marital relationship worsened even more. The couple deteriorated in such a vicious cycle. Meanwhile, I was finally able to mourn my parents at my own pace. I remembered how, during her parents' funeral, there was an endless line of attendees tearfully expressing their gratitude for the times my parents had helped them in their need. Realizing how many people my parents had helped, I felt a renewed sense of pride in them. It's ironic that my brother, who troubled our parents endlessly and never showed gratitude, ended up bearing the debt incurred from their acts of kindness. Despite being mired in debt, I still respect my parents for never ceasing to help others. With these thoughts, today, as always, I offered my prayers to my parents at the family altar.